alien prophecy foretold a hero to wield the sword. A human was the last thing they expected, an HFY story. The galaxy had seen civilizations rise and fall, ancient races of unimaginable power and technological marvels scattered across the stars. Among them, the Zithari were considered the most ancient and wise, their prophecies revered as truths. They spoke of many things, the birth of new stars, the fall of empires, and most notably, the hero of the sword, someone destined to wield a legendary weapon capable of saving the galaxy from a looming threat. For millennia, the Zithari kept watch, waiting for the hero to emerge. The prophecy was clear, a being of strength, courage, and wisdom, capable of defeating the ancient evil that threatened to consume all life. The chosen one would not only possess the power to wield the sword but would also carry the burden of a legacy that spanned eons. In all their calculations and divine foresight, however, the Zithari never once imagined the hero would come from the species they considered insignificant, humans. Captain Mira Daniels sat at the controls of the Ascendant, a human warship that had long been at the edge of intergalactic exploration. The Federation had sent her to negotiate with the Zithari, hoping to form an alliance with the ancient race to defend against the rising threat of the Varkgor, a monstrous race of conquerors who had already ravaged several peaceful systems. "Captain, we're approaching the Zithari homeworld," said Lieutenant Collins, his voice tense with anticipation. "We've received word of their ancient prophecy. They've been waiting for a hero for thousands of years." Mira frowned. "I'm no hero. I'm just a soldier, but if they think I can help them, I'll do my duty." As the ship descended through the atmosphere of the Zithari's sacred world, an overwhelming sense of history hung in the air. The massive stone temples, ancient and weathered by time, dotted the landscape below. This was the heart of the galaxy's most enigmatic species, and the weight of their expectations pressed down on Myra's chest. The Zithari greeted her in their quiet, dignified way, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Their leader, High Priestess Velhyra, spoke with a voice that seemed to echo through time itself. "We have foreseen your arrival, Captain Mira Daniels," she intoned, her gaze fixed on Mira with an intensity that made her skin crawl. "You are the one the prophecy spoke of. You are the hero of the sword." Mira blinked, caught off guard. "Me? There's been some mistake. I'm just here to negotiate a treaty with your people. I'm not a hero." The High Priestess smiled, but it was a smile tinged with sadness. The prophecy never mentioned who the hero would be, only that the chosen one would wield the sword of destiny and stop the Varkgor before they bring ruin to all. "You, Captain Daniels, are the one who will fulfill that role." Before Mira could protest further, the Zithari led her to an ancient temple at the heart of their city. There, resting upon an altar of black stone, lay the sword of destiny, its blade shimmering with an ethereal glow, pulsing with a power that seemed almost alive. Mira hesitated. She had no experience with relics like this, let alone ancient weapons of unimaginable power. But the Zithari believed in her. She could see it in their eyes, hear it in their voices, and though she was uncertain of the weight of their expectations, she felt an undeniable pull toward the sword. "This is madness," she muttered, reaching for the hilt. "I'm just a human. What do I know of prophecy or saving the galaxy?" Her fingers closed around the hilt. The moment her skin made contact, a surge of energy coursed through her. Her mind was flooded with images of distant worlds and civilizations long lost. The power of the sword was overwhelming, yet somehow familiar. In that instant, Mira understood something the Zithari had never anticipated. The prophecy had never been about destiny or some predestined hero. It had been about choice. And humans, mankind, were defined by their ability to choose, to fight against impossible odds and defy expectations. That was the true power of the sword of destiny. It wasn't a tool of fate, but a symbol of the will to shape one's own future, no matter how improbable. With a deep breath, Mira stood tall, the sword held firmly in her grip. "I am not the hero you expected," she said, her voice steady, "but I'll fight. I'll fight for the future of every civilization, and I'll stand against the Varkgor with everything I have, because we, humans, don't give up." The Zithari, for the first time, looked at her not with reverence, but with something closer to awe. They had long believed that only the strongest species, the most ancient and wise, could stand against the darkness. But in that moment, they understood something new. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't its power, but its unyielding spirit. The Varkgor didn't stand a chance. Weeks later, Mira stood on the bridge of the Ascendant as they entered Varkgor space. The massive, hostile fleet of the Varkgor loomed ahead, their ships resembling monstrous beasts, their weapons crackling with dark energy. "All hands, prepare for battle," Mira commanded. "Today, we show the galaxy what humanity can do." The Sword of Destiny glowed brightly at her side, a beacon of hope in the face of impossible odds. As the human fleet engaged the Varkgor in battle, Mira led the charge, her ship and crew fighting with a tenacity that the alien invaders had never seen before. The Zithari, watching from a distance, marveled at the courage of their unexpected hero. The prophecy had been fulfilled, but not in the way anyone had imagined. It wasn't a being of ancient wisdom or unparalleled strength that had wielded the sword. It was a human, flawed, determined, and unstoppable. And that was exactly what the galaxy needed. As the battle raged on, Myra's leadership became more and more apparent. The Varkgor were fierce and ruthless, but they had underestimated one thing: the relentless ingenuity of humanity. While the alien invaders focused on brute force, Mira and her crew employed tactics that baffled the Varkgor warlords. The human ships moved with precision, using advanced tactics honed from centuries of conflict and innovation. The Sword of Destiny was not just a weapon of power. It was a key to unlocking the untapped potential within Mira. The blade surged with energy every time she issued a command, as if resonating with her unwavering determination. She could feel its power, but it wasn't the sword that was driving her, it was the choice she had made to stand against impossible odds. Varkgor flagship approaching, Captain, Collins called out from the helm, his eyes glued to the starboard display. "They've concentrated their firepower on us." Mira glanced at the massive enemy vessel, a grotesque leviathan of metal and organic material. Its guns were primed, and its shields pulsed with dark energy. It was clear the Varkgor saw the Ascendant as their primary target, but Mira wasn't about to let them have the upper hand. "Prepare to engage the Varkgor flagship head-on," Mira ordered. "Initiate evasive maneuvers on my mark." Her crew moved with the kind of synchrony that only a seasoned team could, each one knowing their role without needing to be told. As they closed in on the flagship, Mira could feel the weight of the sword at her side, its power thrumming through her veins. "Now," Mira shouted. The Ascendant veered sharply, skimming the edge of the enemy's fire. With pinpoint accuracy, they managed to launch a barrage of plasma torpedoes, striking the Varkgor flagship's weak points. Explosions rocked the vessel, and the flagship's shields flickered, briefly weakening under the assault. But the Varkgor were far from defeated. They retaliated with a hail of energy blasts, and one of them grazed the Ascendant, causing alarms to blare across the ship. "Shields at 40%, Lieutenant Collins reported urgently. "We need to disable their main reactor, or we won't survive this." Mira gritted her teeth. She had no time to hesitate. "Deploy the boarding pods. I'm going with them," she said, voice firm. Her crew exchanged worried glances, but there was no stopping her. They knew better than to question their captain. Mira was already suited up and on her way to the launch bay before anyone could speak. The boarding pod streaked toward the Varkgor flagship, cutting through the void with relentless speed. Mira gripped the hilt of the Sword of Destiny tightly, her heart pounding with both anticipation and resolve. The Varkgor were monstrous, but their weakness lay in their arrogance. They believed no species could stand against them. They believed no one could survive the prophecy. But Mira wasn't just anyone. As the pod collided with the flagship's hull, a shockwave of energy blasted through the vessel. Mira and her team were propelled into the heart of the enemy ship, their boots hitting the deck with a heavy thud. They were surrounded by Varkgor warriors, their grotesque forms towering over the humans. But Mira was undeterred. She had the sword, and she had the will to fight. The moment she drew the Sword of Destiny, the Varkgor seemed to recoil, sensing the immense power it radiated. Mira didn't hesitate. With a swift motion, she swung the blade, and the first Varkgor warrior fell in a spray of dark ichor. "Form up," Mira barked to her crew. "We're going straight for the reactor." The team moved as one, blasting their way through the ship's corridors, cutting down any Varkgor that stood in their way. Myra's instincts were sharper than ever, the sword guiding her movements with a strange, almost supernatural precision. She fought like a force of nature, relentless, fierce, and unstoppable. Finally, They reached the reactor core, a pulsating mass of energy at the heart of the flagship. But the Varkgor had anticipated this move. As Myra's team planted the explosive charges, a squad of elite Varkgor warriors emerged from the shadows, led by a hulking brute covered in battle scars. Myra's heart raced, but she steadied herself. The Varkgor leader growled, raising a massive blade that crackled with dark energy. "You think you can defeat me, human?" The leader sneered. "You are nothing. Your people are nothing." Myra's grip tightened on the sword of destiny. She didn't answer with words. Instead, she charged. The battle was brutal. The Varkgor leader swung his massive weapon, aiming to cleave Myra in half, but she moved with speed and precision, her every step guided by the sword's power. The clash of their blades sent shockwaves through the chamber. With a roar, Myra brought the sword of destiny down upon the Varkgor leader's blade, shattering it in a burst of sparks. In that instant, she struck, plunging the sword deep into the creature's chest. The Varkgor leader's eyes widened in disbelief as he crumpled to the ground, defeated by the human he had underestimated. "Is that all you've got?" Myra said, her voice cold and unwavering. With the Varkgor flagship's leader slain, the remaining warriors faltered. Myra's crew finished setting the charges, and within moments, the reactor core exploded in a brilliant flash of light, sending the flagship into a death spiral. Back aboard the Ascendant, Myra watched as the massive Varkgor ship disintegrated in the distance, the remnants of its once unstoppable force now nothing more than cosmic debris. The crew cheered, their spirits high, but Myra remained quiet, staring out into the vastness of space. "Is it over?" Collins asked, his voice a mix of awe and disbelief. "For now," Myra said, her voice steady, "but it will take more than a single victory to secure peace for the galaxy. We've made our stand, and we've shown them what humanity is capable of." The Zithari had predicted the arrival of a hero, but they had never expected that hero to be human. In the end, it wasn't ancient knowledge or alien strength that won the day, it was the human spirit, the ability to rise above any challenge, no matter how daunting, and to fight for a future of hope, not fate. Myra Daniels, captain of the Ascendant, wasn't just a hero, she was the embodiment of everything humanity stood for: resilience, choice, and the relentless pursuit of a better tomorrow. And for the galaxy, that was more than enough. After the Varkgor flagship had been reduced to debris, the human fleet began the process of mopping up the remaining Varkgor forces. The war wasn't over, but this battle had struck a significant blow to their morale. The Varkgor had been counting on their overwhelming strength and their belief that no one could defeat them. Now, the very species they had considered insignificant had shown them just how wrong they were. Myra stood on the observation deck of the Ascendant, gazing out at the stars. The aftermath of the battle stretched across the cosmos, the remnants of the enemy fleet floating in scattered pieces. She had expected relief, perhaps a sense of accomplishment, but instead, there was only the weight of what had come before and what was still to come. "Captain," Collins said, stepping beside her, "the Federation is asking for a status update. They've heard about the battle. They're impressed." Myra gave a small nod but didn't take her eyes off the view. "Impressed? We've only just begun." There was a brief silence before Collins spoke again. "You know, there's something I don't get. The Zithari prophecy, why would they not see that it would be a human who would save the galaxy? I mean, we've always fought for our survival, for something greater than ourselves. We never just wait for destiny to come to us. We make our own fate." Myra turned her gaze to him, a slight smirk on her lips. "Maybe they never understood us. They were looking for a hero who embodied what they valued: strength, ancient wisdom, power. But we've always had something more, and it's what the Varkgor didn't see coming." "The sword," Collins said, as if the pieces were falling into place. "It's not just about raw power, it's about choice. Humanity's greatest strength is our ability to rise above, to make decisions that define us, no matter the odds." "Exactly," Myra replied, turning back to the view. "The sword of destiny didn't choose me because I'm the strongest or the smartest. It chose me because I was willing to fight for what's right, for something beyond myself." Days passed, and the Ascendant continued its mission to rally the remaining star systems to unite against the Varkgor threat. The Federation, in awe of humanity's unexpected victory, offered their full support, sending reinforcements and supplies. The Zithari, once distant and aloof, now recognized humanity as an ally, though they remained hesitant to accept the idea of a human hero leading the charge. Mira had not expected the Zithari to change overnight, nor did she desire their full approval. She understood the way they operated. Their culture, steeped in thousands of years of history, was bound by tradition, but their acknowledgement was enough, and their alliance would be vital in the coming battles. In the midst of preparations for the next phase of the war, Mira received a communication from the Zithari High Priestess Velhyra. The transmission was brief, but the message was unmistakable. "You have fulfilled the prophecy, Captain Daniels," Velhyra said, her voice carrying both reverence and a hint of reluctant respect. "The Sword of Destiny chose you, and in doing so, it has proven that fate is not something to be expected, but something to be forged." Myra's lips tightened, but she didn't respond immediately. Instead, she looked out at the stars, her mind swirling with thoughts of the future. "I don't need their respect," she said to herself, "but I'll earn it anyway." The next phase of the war was intense. With the defeat of their flagship, the Varkgor were forced to retreat to regroup, but Mira knew it wouldn't last. They were relentless, and they would come again, stronger, more determined to crush the humans and their newfound allies. But Mira was ready. The human spirit, after all, didn't know how to stop fighting. Mira stood in the war room of the Ascendant as her crew prepared for their next move. The Federation's fleet had reinforced their ranks, and the Zithari had agreed to provide strategic counsel, though they insisted they would remain in the background. Mira respected their decision. After all, this was a human-led battle now. "We've hit them once," she said to her crew, looking each of them in the eye. "But the Varkgor won't stop. They never do, and neither will we." Her words were met with resolute silence, the crew understanding the stakes. They were fighting not just for their survival, but for the survival of the galaxy. The threat was far from over, but Mira knew one thing for certain: they would face it together. The Sword of Destiny pulsed at her side, its energy growing stronger with each passing day. It was a symbol now, a reminder of the legacy humanity was building, not based on ancient prophecies or divine mandates, but on the choices they made. And Mira had made her choice. She would lead humanity into the heart of the war. She would bring every bit of her resolve to bear, not only for the survival of her people but for the future of the galaxy. The Varkgor would soon learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't a sword, nor a fleet, but the indomitable will of those who refused to surrender. "Prepare for the final assault," Mira ordered. "We're going to finish this." Her crew responded with a unified cheer. The battle to save the galaxy had only just begun, and humanity's role as its unexpected savior was already solidified. The Sword of Destiny would guide them, but it was humanity's courage that would ultimately see them through to victory. The Ascendant sailed through the void toward the Varkgor homeworld, the heart of their empire. Mira stood at the helm, her eyes scanning the horizon of space. It had been weeks since the first major victory against the Varkgor, but she knew that this would be the final battle. The Varkgor, after regrouping, were preparing for their last stand. Their retreat had given them time to rebuild and regroup, but it had also given Mira and her forces the chance to strike decisively. "Captain," Collins's voice broke through her thoughts, "we're entering Varkgor space. Long-range sensors are picking up massive fleet movements." Mira nodded, her fingers drumming on the console. "Of course they are. They're gathering everything they've got. This is it. The Federation fleet is ready," Collins continued, his voice tinged with anticipation. "The Zithari have agreed to provide strategic support, but they insist we lead the charge." "They have their reasons," Mira replied, a hint of a smile on her face. "We're the ones they've been waiting for." After all, the plan was set. Myra's human fleet would form the spearhead, with Federation and Zithari forces providing crucial support. The Varkgor, despite their arrogance, had underestimated humanity's adaptability, and that would be their downfall. The Varkgor were a race that relied on overwhelming force and brute strength, but they lacked the flexibility to counter a dynamic, highly coordinated force like that of humanity. As they approached the Varkgor homeworld, Myra's mind raced. She could feel the weight of the Sword of Destiny at her side. It had grown with her, more than just an artifact, it was a symbol of the resolve that had carried her and her people this far. She could feel the energy of the sword resonating with her every thought, every action. It wasn't merely the sword's power. It was a power that existed within humanity itself, the power to overcome impossible odds, to defy expectations, and to create their own destiny. "Captain, we're being hailed," Collins said, his voice alert. Myra's gaze flicked toward the communication screen. It was an urgent message from the Varkgor High Command. "Captain Mira Daniels." The Varkgor general's voice crackled through the speaker, his tone cold and threatening. "You and your human fleet have caused us far too much trouble. We were content to wipe your kind out, but now we will ensure your destruction is total. You have no place in this galaxy." Mira stood tall, her expression unshaken. She knew the Varkgor's arrogance would be their undoing. "We've been making a place for ourselves," Mira replied, her voice steady and calm. "And your reign of terror ends today. You'll learn that humanity doesn't bow to threats. We stand, and we fight." The Varkgor general growled in response, the connection cutting off abruptly. Mira didn't need to hear any more. She turned to her crew, her voice resolute. "This is it, people. We fight for everything. For our homes, our families, for the future of this galaxy. We show them who we are." The battle began with a thunderous crash as the human fleet engaged the Varkgor armada head-on. The sky was alive with the flash of weapons fire and the blinding glow of energy shields. The Varkgor, though formidable, were disorganized and predictable. They launched wave after wave of assault, relying on their massive ships and overwhelming firepower to break through the human lines. But Myra's tactics were anything but predictable. "Move the flanks. Form a defensive perimeter," she ordered. "Target their weak points, aim for their engines." Human ships, agile and fast, darted in and out of the Varkgor lines, striking swiftly and retreating before the enemy could retaliate. The Federation's advanced ships followed suit, providing precision support. The Zithari kept to their word, offering strategic assistance without overshadowing humanity's lead role. The Varkgor flagship, a massive ship that dwarfed even the Ascendant, loomed at the center of the battle, its dark energy cannons lighting up the space around it. "We've got to take out that flagship," Mira said, her jaw clenched. "Collins, prepare the Ascendant for a direct assault. We're going in." Her crew didn't question the order. They had followed her this far, and they trusted her judgment. The Ascendant surged forward, blasting through the Varkgor's defenses with unrelenting force. The Sword of Destiny pulsed at Myra's side, filling her with a surge of energy as she navigated the ship closer to the flagship. The enemy had focused all their firepower on her ship, knowing that it was humanity's command center. But Myra's fleet was one step ahead, coordinating their fire to draw the Varkgor's attention away from the Ascendant just long enough for them to make their move. With the Varkgor distracted, Mira and her team prepared for a boarding operation. The Ascendant launched its pods toward the enemy flagship, and Mira, once again at the helm of the boarding party, led the charge. The interior of the Varkgor flagship was a maze of cold, metallic corridors, filled with the stench of alien technology and blood. Myra's team moved quickly, neutralizing Varkgor soldiers who stood in their way. The Varkgor had once seen themselves as the apex of the galaxy's strength, but in the heart of their own ship, the humans were a force they had not accounted for. The Sword of Destiny guided Myra's every step. She could feel its power course through her as she led her team deeper into the ship. They reached the reactor room, the heart of the Varkgor vessel, but it was guarded by a massive Varkgor warlord, an opponent unlike any they had faced before. The warlord towered over Mira, his massive frame covered in battle scars and adorned with the insignia of the Varkgor High Command. He brandished a massive energy sword, his eyes burning with fury. "You think you can defeat me, human?" the warlord sneered. "I am the last line of defense. You will fall like the rest of your kind." Myra's grip tightened on the Sword of Destiny. The warlord was strong, but his strength was based on his arrogance. He underestimated her, as they all had. "You're wrong," Mira said, her voice steady. "You're not the last line of defense. I am." With a roar, the warlord charged, his sword crackling with dark energy. Mira dodged his first strike, her movements swift and precise. She was no longer just fighting with the sword, she was fighting with every human instinct, every decision they had ever made to stand against the impossible. The clash of their weapons reverberated through the room. Myra's sword met the warlord's blade, and the force of the impact sent shockwaves through the chamber. Her mind was clear, her actions guided by the sword, but it was her human will that drove her forward. She didn't need raw strength, she needed resolve. With a final, calculated strike, Mira pierced the warlord's defenses and drove the sword of destiny deep into his chest, silencing his roar as he crumpled to the ground. The Varkgor flagship began to destabilize, and Myra's team set the final charges. The reactor core was set to explode, and the Varkgor's last stronghold would fall. As Mira and her crew made their way back to the escape pods, she couldn't help but feel the weight of what they had accomplished. This battle was not just a victory for humanity, it was a message to the galaxy. Humanity would no longer be underestimated. They would carve their own path, choose their own fate, and stand against any force that sought to destroy them. The Varkgor, for all their strength and cruelty, had learned the hard way: humanity could not be crushed. They would rise, again and again, as long as they had the will to fight. As the Ascendant pulled back to join the rest of the fleet, the Varkgor flagship erupted in a fiery explosion, marking the end of the battle and the beginning of a new era for the galaxy. The days following the destruction of the Varkgor flagship were filled with brief moments of celebration and reflection. The battle had been brutal, but the victory was undeniable. The remaining Varkgor forces, now scattered and leaderless, retreated into the farthest corners of the galaxy, licking their wounds and plotting their next move, though Mira knew it would be some time before they could regroup. The Federation sent a formal message of thanks to the Ascendant, commending Captain Mira Daniels and her crew for their decisive role in the war. Even the Zithari, who had once been cautious in their dealings with humanity, now offered full cooperation. Their ancient prophecies had been rewritten in the wake of the battle, and their belief in the human spirit had been transformed from skepticism to genuine admiration. But Myra's thoughts were never far from the future. The war was over, yes, but the galaxy was still in turmoil. New alliances would need to be forged, and old enemies remained. The Varkgor had been only the beginning of what was likely a far greater threat, one that could not be predicted or anticipated. "Captain, we've received word from the Zithari," Collins reported as Mira paced in the command center of the Ascendant. "They're calling for a council meeting to discuss the next steps. It seems they want to formalize a new galactic order with humanity at the forefront." Mira stopped in her tracks, considering the implications. The Zithari were offering a seat at the table, but it came with its own set of challenges. The Zithari were cautious by nature, slow to act, and their wisdom had often made them reluctant to engage in matters they felt didn't align with their understanding of the universe. The offer would not be an easy one, but Mira knew it was a crucial opportunity. "Set course for the Zithari capital," she said, her voice firm. "It's time humanity took its place in the galaxy, not as a side note, but as a leader." The journey to the Zithari homeworld was swift, but the tension aboard the Ascendant was palpable. Mira stood on the bridge, watching as the stars streaked past the windows. Her crew was quiet, some eager to see the future unfold, others anxious about what this new role for humanity would entail. The weight of their unexpected rise to galactic prominence was not lost on any of them. "Captain," Collins called out, breaking the silence, "the Zithari fleet is awaiting our arrival. They've been preparing for this meeting for centuries. It seems they've had time to prepare," Mira said softly, but her tone was determined. "It's humanity's turn now. We've proven we belong here, and we'll show them that we're more than just the prophecy. We're the future." When the Ascendant arrived in orbit above the Zithari homeworld, Mira felt the full scope of the occasion. The planet below was a testament to millennia of civilization, towering spires of gleaming stone, ancient temples dotting the landscape, and vast cities built into the very surface of the planet. It was clear the Zithari were not a race to be taken lightly, but Mira was no longer intimidated by their age-old wisdom. Humanity had proven its worth, and she would ensure the rest of the galaxy saw it too. A delegation of Zithari greeted her aboard the Ascendant, led by High Priestess Velhyra. The air between them was thick with expectation, and Mira could sense the careful calculation behind every word. "Captain Daniels," Velhyra began, her voice measured and calm, "you and your people have done the impossible. The prophecy has been fulfilled, and the Varkgor have been defeated. This war, and the galaxy's fate, has changed. Now, the question is what role humanity will play in this new order." Mira studied the Zithari leader, feeling the weight of their gaze on her. She had known from the beginning that the Zithari's respect would never be easily earned, but now she understood that respect wasn't what they wanted an ally. They wanted to know that humanity, the species that had risen from nothing, would stand side by side with them, not as a subordinate, but as an equal partner. We've never been afraid of taking the lead when the time comes, Mira said, her voice steady. We fought because we had to, and now, we will fight for the future of every species in this galaxy. We won't just follow your rules, we'll help create the new ones. Velhyra's gaze lingered on her for a moment, and Mira could see the flicker of understanding in the elder's eyes. The Zithari had seen many civilizations rise and fall, but they had never encountered one like humanity, a species so capable of forging its own path. Your words are unexpected, Velhyra replied, her voice carrying a note of admiration. But perhaps that is what the galaxy needs now, a new order, shaped by new forces. Myra's heart beat faster. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Humanity was about to take its rightful place among the stars. She wasn't just an emissary for Earth anymore, she was a representative of something far greater, a future where all species would have a voice, where strength and resilience were no longer measured by age or tradition, but by willpower and unity. Then let's shape it, Mira said firmly, together. The council meeting was a turning point in galactic history. 4 hours. Representatives from the Federation, the Zithari, and the surviving systems that had been liberated from the Varkgor's tyranny discussed the future. There was debate. Of course, many of the Zithari remained cautious, reluctant to hand over control. But Mira, backed by humanity's newfound reputation and the unwavering support of her crew, stood her ground. And slowly, she began to win them over. The first significant change came with the formation of a new galactic council, one that would allow every species a seat at the table. The Zithari, while retaining their vast knowledge and influence, agreed to share the mantle of leadership with humanity. The Federation, once seen as weak and divided, was revitalized with the infusion of new ideas and strength from the human species. At the end of the council, Mira stood beside Velhyra, the two of them united as symbols of a new era. Today, Velhyra said to the assembled leaders, we have chosen to break the cycle of domination and submission. Today, we choose unity over division. Today, we choose humanity as an equal partner in the future of the galaxy. Mira stepped forward, her eyes meeting those of the leaders in the room. The Varkgor believed they could crush us, she said, but what they didn't understand is that humanity doesn't bow to threats. We rise, and now, together, we will rise to ensure that no one, no species, ever again has to fight for survival alone. As Mira spoke, she felt the sword of destiny pulsing at her side. She had thought of it as merely a weapon, but it had become so much more. It was a symbol of everything humanity had fought for, everything it was capable of. And as she looked out at the leaders of the galaxy, Mira knew that the fight was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and new challenges would arise. But humanity had found its place in the stars, not as the underdog, but as a force to be reckoned with, a force that would stand, not in the shadows, but at the forefront of the new galaxy. And that was only the beginning. As the days passed following the establishment of the new Galactic Council, the weight of their decisions began to settle across the galaxy. The echoes of war still lingered in the minds of many species, but now, there was a sense of hope, of unity, that hadn't existed before. Humanity's victory over the Varkgor had reshaped the galaxy, and the formation of the new galactic order was proof that even the most unlikely species could rise to lead. The Ascendant drifted through the peaceful expanse of the newly formed alliance, its crew now sharing the responsibility of ensuring the success of this fragile peace. Mira Daniels, standing on the bridge, couldn't help but feel the profound shift in the galaxy's pulse. The fight for survival had transformed into a fight for unity, and humanity stood at the center of it all. Captain, we've received a message from the Federation, Collins said, bringing her out of her reverie. They're offering their full support for the new council's efforts. They're ready to assist in further negotiations with the Zithari and the other races. Mira nodded, but her gaze remained fixed on the view of the galaxy before her. We still have a lot of work to do. The Varkgor may be beaten, but there are other threats out there. This peace isn't just about diplomacy. It's about ensuring the stability of this new order. Collins hesitated, then spoke again, his voice quieter. And you, Captain, how do you feel about all of this? You've led us through the hardest of battles, but now you're tasked with something even bigger, ensuring that what we've fought for remains. Mira took a deep breath, her fingers running over the edge of the console as she considered his words. The weight of leadership had shifted from mere survival to the responsibility of stewardship. The council was now in place, but it would take more than just agreements and speeches to hold it together. It would take vigilance, wisdom, and strength, qualities that humanity had in abundance. "I feel ready," she said at last, her voice calm and steady. "We fought not just for our survival, but for the future. And this galaxy, this new order, is worth protecting." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the ripples of the human victory continued to spread. The once feared Varkgor were in disarray, their empire in shambles. The remnants of their fleet were scattered across the outer rim, their generals questioning how their superior strength had been defeated by a race they had deemed insignificant. Their pride was wounded, and though they would be a threat no more in the short term, their survival instincts would not allow them to remain silent forever. The Federation, with its newfound strength from the human alliance, began a delicate mission of rebuilding the parts of the galaxy left in ruins by the war. It was a task that required diplomacy, but also the hard hand of justice. Marauding Varkgor remnants were being hunted down by mixed-species forces, and planets that had once lived under the shadow of the Varkgor now looked to humanity for leadership. It was a responsibility that Mira did not take lightly. In the Zithari Council chambers, the High Priestess Velhyra and other leaders were quietly discussing the future of their ancient order. The Zithari had long seen themselves as the galaxy's guardians, but the events that had unfolded in the past few weeks had shifted their perspectives. Their ancient prophecies had spoken of great change, and the rise of humanity had become the catalyst for that transformation. "You've always been certain that the future belonged to us," Velhyra said, her voice soft, her ancient eyes narrowing with a mixture of doubt and curiosity. "But now, the humans have shown us something we didn't expect." A fellow elder, one who had stood beside Velhyra for centuries, spoke with quiet intensity. "Perhaps, High Priestess, the prophecy was not about us, but about the galaxy itself. Humanity has forged its path, and perhaps our wisdom is needed not to lead them, but to guide them in what comes next." Velhyra looked out over the galactic map, her fingers tapping lightly on the console as the stars shimmered in the distance. The question of humanity's future in the galaxy was no longer a mere philosophical debate, it was becoming reality. Back aboard the Ascendant, Mira stood alone in the ship's observation deck late one evening. The galaxy stretched out before her, stars twinkling in their endless dance. She had come to understand this moment, this wait, in ways she hadn't expected. The sword that had once symbolized humanity's struggle for survival now felt like an ancient relic, a tool to guide them in the new age. "Captain," Collins said from behind her, stepping into the quiet of the room, "the delegation from the Federation is waiting for us. It's time to head to the Council's headquarters." Mira turned, her eyes catching the weight of the journey they had undertaken. The galaxy had changed, but so had she. "Give me a moment," she said softly. "I want to take it all in before we make our next move." Collins paused for a moment, as if sensing the gravity of her words. "It's hard to believe it, isn't it?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. "From where we started, to here, you've changed everything, Captain." Myra's eyes lingered on the stars for a moment longer, the feeling of the Sword of Destiny still buzzing softly at her side. "We changed everything, Collins, together." As the Ascendant moved toward the newly established Galactic Council headquarters, a new chapter in history was unfolding. The remnants of the Varkgor Empire may have retreated, but Mira knew that peace was never permanent. The galaxy was vast, and other forces were undoubtedly waiting in the wings, watching how humanity would shape the future. The Zithari had their ancient wisdom, the Federation had its infrastructure, and now humanity had its unyielding resolve. Together, they had built something strong, but it was still fragile. There would be new challenges, new conflicts, and new threats, but humanity had proven that it could rise to any occasion. As the Ascendant neared the station, Mira felt the weight of her position settle in. She wasn't just a captain anymore. She was part of something much bigger. Humanity was no longer just a survivor, it was a leader. And its place in the galaxy had been carved through sacrifice and determination. "I think we're ready for whatever comes next," Mira said, her voice filled with quiet confidence. "The galaxy isn't just waiting for us to lead it anymore. It's ready to follow." Collins smiled, understanding exactly what she meant. The future was uncertain, But humanity would face it head-on. As the Ascendant docked at the council station, the crew knew that the true work was only beginning, and with Mira Daniels at the helm, they would continue to carve their path forward, one that would reshape the future of the galaxy, not just for humanity, but for all species. They had become the architects of a new era, and the Sword of Destiny was their guide.